What's good, Zaza Beasts? Welcome back to another deep dive into the world of solo leveling. Today, we're exploring one of the most iconic and terrifying abilities in the entire series, Sung Jinwoo's Shadow Extraction power. From humble beginnings as the weakest hunter to becoming the Shadow Monarch commanding an army of darkness, Jinwoo's journey is marked by each shadow he claims as his own. We're going to break down every major shadow extraction, from his very first knight Igris to the legendary dragons that served under Ashbourne himself. These aren't just mindless puppets. Each shadow carries the memories, skills, and personalities of their former lives, creating one of the most diverse and powerful armies ever assembled. So grab your daggers, step into the shadows, and let's explore how Jinwoo built his unstoppable Legion of Darkness. Arise. Let's start with the shadow that changed everything. Igris, the Red Blood Commander. The Crimson Knight guarding the Demon Castle's deepest secrets, his armor bore the scars of 1,000 battles across dimensions unknown. Jinwoo faced him alone in that cursed castle where steel rang against steel, each strike testing Jinwoo's resolve. But when the dust settled, the knight had fallen, not in dishonor, but in recognition of a worthy master. A rise. The knight's armor gleamed anew. He knelt, not in defeat, but in service. The first shadow. The first loyalty. As a master swordsman, tactical genius, and unwavering protector, Igris became the cornerstone of Jinwoo's growing army, a lieutenant who understood both war and honor. From dungeon raids to protecting Jinwoo's flanks, Igris proved that technique conquers brute force. He fought demons, monsters, and even trained other shadows in the art of combat, serving as Jinwoo's primary strategic advisor when facing challenging opponents. Igris wasn't just any knight. He carried memories of serving under the original Shadow Monarch. His loyalty wasn't programmed, it was chosen. Once a commander in Ashbourne's army, his service may have been destiny, not chance. Igris was the sword, but Jinwoo still needed a shield. Tank. Moving from the elegance of swordsmanship to raw, primal power, we encounter Tank, the massive ice bear dungeon boss from a red gate. Primal fury incarnate, in the frozen wasteland, he ruled through fear and fangs, a towering beast of pure destructive power. The arena was ice and blood. Tank roared, the ground cracked, frost filled the air as Jinwoo faced him in a frozen hell where the bear's claws could tear through steel. But Jinwoo's determination burned hotter than the bear's rage ever could. Arise. The massive bear lowered his head, not in submission, in understanding. Wild fury transformed into protective instinct. Raw power incarnate, Tank became Jinwoo's living siege engine, breaking enemy formations, absorbing devastating attacks, and clearing paths through impossible odds. His ice-based abilities added magical components to pure brute force. Tank smashed through dungeon walls, tanked boss attacks meant for Jinwoo, and once caught a collapsing ceiling with his bare claws to save his master. He played key roles in large-scale battles as a living battering ram. Despite his bestial nature, Tank developed an almost childlike loyalty. He once tried to, gently, pat a wounded shadow back to health, and even shielded Jinwoo from a collapsing dungeon wall instinctively. A monster with a heart. Tank brought strength. But Jinwoo's next shadow brought strategy. Iron. The extraction of iron, the shadow of fallen hunter, Kim Chul, represented one of Jinwoo's most controversial but strategically important acquisitions. Kim Chul had been a powerful A-rank hunter whose arrogance exceeded his abilities, his poor leadership costing lives, including his own. Kim Chul fell not to Jinwoo's blade, but to his own hubris in a dungeon that demanded teamwork. His death was a lesson in the price of pride. Arise. The hunter who had failed in life found purpose in death. Iron stood, not with arrogance, but with discipline. As a mid-range combat specialist with magical support and tactical coordination abilities, under Jinwoo's command, Kim Chul's abilities finally reached their potential. Iron provided covering fire, exploited enemy weaknesses with precision magic, and proved that even failure could be redeemed through proper leadership. Iron retained fragments of Kim Chul's memories, but only the good ones. His shadow form was who Kim Chul could have been if he'd learned humility. Iron found redemption. But Jinwoo's next shadow would bring devastation. Tusk. The extraction of Tusk, the High Orc Shaman, marked a crucial turning point in Jinwoo's development as the Shadow Monarch. This wasn't just another powerful addition to his army. Tusk represented Jinwoo's first encounter with truly high-level magic and strategic thinking from his shadows. Intelligent, ruthless, and commanding, he led his tribe with magic and cunning until Jinwoo proved there was always a bigger predator. Magic met determination as Tusk hurled spells that could level buildings, but Jinwoo's resolve was unbreakable. The shaman's power became his master's weapon. Arise. The orc's staff crackled with new purpose. His intelligence intact, his loyalty absolute. A general for Jinwoo's growing army. With battlefield control, area magic, and tactical brilliance, Tusk became Jinwoo's magical artillery, gravity manipulation, fear magic, and devastating fire spells. Tusk controlled entire battlefields, weakened enemy formations, and coordinated shadow troops with the precision of a chess master. His orb of avarice amplified every spell to devastating effect. Tusk's intelligence was so advanced that he began developing new spell combinations independently. A shadow who could think, adapt, and evolve. His mastery over gravitational forces could dramatically increase gravity in localized areas, effectively pinning enemies to the ground, while his defensive magic featured barrier spells that could withstand tremendous punishment. Perhaps most psychologically devastating was his mastery of fear magic, projecting waves of supernatural terror that would break enemy formations and send even experienced warriors fleeing in panic. Tusk mastered magic, but the skies demanded a different kind of power. Kaisel. Kaisel, the magnificent dragon shadow, represented a quantum leap in Jinwoo's capabilities and status as the Shadow Monarch. This wasn't just another powerful combatant. Kaisel was a symbol of Jinwoo's growing connection to his true heritage and his emergence as a force capable of challenging the most powerful beings in existence. A magnificent dragon, ancient, proud, and virtually indestructible, he soared through dimensions until Jinwoo proved that even legends could fall. The battle was aerial poetry. Dragonfire met human determination. When Kaisel fell, it wasn't just a victory, it was a statement that Jinwoo had transcended normal limits. Arise. The dragon's eyes opened, not with rage but with respect. He had found a master worthy of his power. With aerial superiority, shape-shifting abilities, and regenerative power, Kaisel became both Jinwoo's mount and his symbol of dominion over the impossible. High-speed travel, aerial reconnaissance, and devastating surprise attacks became possible as Kaisel's mere presence changed the dynamics of every battlefield. Kaisel could adjust his size from room-filling to building-sized. A dragon who understood subtlety, a paradox that only Jinwoo could command. The dragon bowed. But Jinwoo's greatest extraction was yet to come. Beru. The extraction of Beru, the former Ant King, represented one of Jinwoo's most significant victories and most powerful acquisitions. This wasn't just claiming another shadow. This was transforming one of humanity's greatest threats into one of its most devoted protectors. The Ant King was a monster that terrorized nations. His intelligence rivaled human generals, his power destroyed S-rank hunters, and his cruelty knew no bounds. Jeju Island became a graveyard where Beru had slaughtered elite hunters from multiple nations. When Jinwoo arrived, it wasn't just a fight, it was divine judgment. Arise. The most terrifying moment in solo leveling. The king of monsters knelt before Jinwoo. Terror became loyalty. Destroyer became protector. With flight, intelligence, regeneration, and leadership abilities, Beru became Jinwoo's second-in-command, a general who understood both strategy and loyalty. Baru led shadow armies, protected civilians, and fought monarch-level threats. The monster who once hunted humans became humanity's fiercest guardian. Baru retained his personality completely, including his pride. He once asked Jinwoo's permission to discipline a disrespectful hunter. A king's ego in service to a greater king. Beru knelt in respect. But Jinwoo's shadow army was just beginning. The Naga warriors. The Naga shadows represented Jinwoo's expansion into aquatic warfare, creatures that had ruled the underwater depths with primal fury and relentless hunting instincts. These serpentine warriors were originally driven by ancient grudges and territorial desires, making them some of the most persistent predators Jinwoo had ever encountered. When Jinwoo first faced them in their aquatic domain, the water itself seemed to bend to their will as they struck with lightning speed and crushing coils. The battle was fought in an environment where most hunters would have drowned. But Jinwoo adapted, proving that his power transcended elemental limitations. A rise. The serpent's eyes gleamed with newfound purpose, their hatred transformed into unwavering loyalty. As shadows, the Naga brought unique capabilities that filled crucial gaps in Jinwoo's army composition. Underwater operations, amphibious assaults, and the kind of relentless pursuit that could track enemies across any terrain. Their serpentine forms allowed for perfect stealth in water, while their powerful coils could crush armor and bones with equal ease. What made them truly valuable was their pack mentality. They coordinated attacks with the precision of a military unit, each member understanding their role in complex aquatic maneuvers. The Naga proved that Jinwoo's army could adapt to any environment, any challenge, making them indispensable for missions that took his forces beyond traditional battlefields. The High Orc Legend. Beyond Tusk's command stood an entire legion of High Orc warriors, each one a battle-hardened veteran with decades of combat experience carved into their scarred hides. These weren't the mindless brutes that most hunters encountered. They were disciplined soldiers who had served in organized armies, understanding formations, tactics, and the brutal arithmetic of warfare. When Jinwoo faced them, it wasn't just individual combat, but military strategy on full display. They fought as units, covered each other's weaknesses, and demonstrated the kind of battlefield intelligence that had made orc tribes feared across dimensions. Their extraction came after a campaign that tested every aspect of Jinwoo's growing tactical awareness. Arise. Each orc warrior rose with their combat instincts intact, but their loyalty redirected toward their new commander. As shadows, they became the backbone of Jinwoo's army structure. Disciplined infantry who could hold lines, execute complex maneuvers, and provide the kind of steady, reliable combat presence that allowed more specialized shadows to operate effectively. Their experience with siege warfare, defensive formations, and coordinated assaults made them perfect for large-scale operations. What set them apart was their adaptability. Veterans who had fought in countless different scenarios, they could adjust their tactics based on enemy composition and battlefield conditions, making Jinwoo's army more flexible and responsive than any traditional military force. The Ice Bear Pack. Tank wasn't alone in the frozen wasteland. His pack, family members who had shared the same harsh environment, the same primal bonds that made ice bears such formidable predators, joined Jinwoo's shadow army as a unified force. These weren't random monsters, but creatures who understood pack dynamics, protective instincts, and the kind of coordinated hunting that had kept their bloodline alive in one of the most hostile environments imaginable. Each bear brought their own combat specialization. Some focused on pure physical power, others on ice magic, and still others on the kind of tactical awareness that came from hunting as a group. When Jinwoo extracted them, he wasn't just gaining individual soldiers but an entire family unit with established hierarchies and battle rhythms. Arise. The pack rose together, their bonds intact but now serving a greater purpose under Jinwoo's command. As shadows, they created an impenetrable wall of fur, claws, and elemental ice power that could anchor any defensive position or spearhead the most dangerous assaults. Their pack mentality translated perfectly to military operations. They instinctively protected each other and their human allies, coordinated their ice-based abilities for maximum battlefield control, and brought the kind of unwavering loyalty that only family bonds could create. The Ice Bear Pack proved that Jinwoo's extraction ability could preserve and redirect even the strongest natural bonds, transforming family units into military assets without destroying what made them special. The Evolved Ant Legend. Baru's former subjects represented one of the most sophisticated military organizations Jinwoo had ever encountered. A hive mind hierarchy where every individual knew their exact role and executed it with mechanical precision. These weren't just mindless drones but specialized units. Worker soldiers who could construct fortifications mid-battle, scout ants with enhanced sensory capabilities, warrior ants bred for specific combat roles, and commander-class ants who could coordinate complex operations across multiple fronts. Their original efficiency under Baru's rule had made them nearly unstoppable on Jeju Island, systematically dismantling human defenses through pure tactical superiority. When Jinwoo extracted them, he inherited not just individual soldiers but an entire command structure that had been perfected through countless generations of hive evolution. Arise. The Ant Legion rose as one, their hive mind loyalty transferring seamlessly to Jinwoo while retaining their specialized functions and coordination abilities. As shadows, they brought capabilities that no other force could match. Instant communication across vast distances, coordinated multi-unit operations that required no verbal commands, and the kind of tactical flexibility that came from having dozens of specialized roles available at any moment. Their construction abilities allowed Jinwoo's army to build fortifications, create strategic advantages, and adapt battlefield terrain to their needs. Most importantly, they could operate independently in small units while remaining connected to the larger strategic vision, making them perfect for complex operations that required simultaneous actions across multiple locations. Greed. Greed represented one of the most enigmatic additions to Jinwoo's shadow army, a being whose very existence seemed to embody the complex nature of power and ambition. Unlike many of Jinwoo's other shadows who had clear origins and defined roles, greed emerged from circumstances shrouded in mystery and moral ambiguity. His extraction came during a period when Jinwoo was grappling with the darker implications of his growing power, facing enemies who forced him to make choices that tested his principles and pushed him toward methods he might have once considered unthinkable. When the moment came for extraction, there was no grand battle cry or heroic struggle, just the quiet, inevitable word that had become Jinwoo's signature. Arise. Greed rose with an aura of fractured nobility, power wrapped in shadows that seemed to flicker between glory and corruption. As a shadow, greed brought capabilities that were both impressive and unsettling. Combat skills that bordered on the supernatural, tactical awareness that suggested deep experience with conflict, and an understanding of power dynamics that made him invaluable for operations requiring subtlety and precision. His fighting style was fluid and adaptable, capable of switching between direct confrontation and psychological warfare depending on what the situation demanded. What made Greed truly unique was his apparent retention of complex motivations and desires, even in shadow form, making him one of the few shadows who seemed to serve Jinwoo not just out of loyalty, but out of a genuine understanding of the benefits their partnership provided. Greed represented the shadow side of ambition, the acknowledgement that sometimes achieving great things required embracing morally complex choices and working with forces that existed in the gray areas between heroism and pragmatism. Jima. Jima's extraction marked another significant addition to Jinwoo's expanding roster of elite shadows, though the circumstances surrounding this particular shadow remain among the more intriguing aspects of Jinwoo's journey as the Shadow Monarch. Like many of Jinwoo's most powerful shadows, Jima had been a formidable opponent in life, possessing combat abilities and tactical intelligence that made them a worthy addition to an army increasingly filled with legendary figures. The battle that led to Jima's extraction showcased Jinwoo's continued evolution as both a fighter and a strategist, demonstrating his ability to analyze and overcome opponents who brought unique challenges and fighting styles to their confrontations. When the decisive moment arrived, Jinwoo's command carried the same transformative power that had claimed so many others before. Arise. Jima rose, as a shadow with their combat prowess intact, but their loyalty redirected towards serving Jinwoo's greater vision for what his army could accomplish. As a shadow warrior, Jima brought specialized combat techniques and battlefield awareness that complemented the existing strengths of Jinwoo's other elite shadows, filling tactical roles that enhanced the army's overall effectiveness in complex operations. Their integration into the shadow hierarchy demonstrated Jinwoo's growing sophistication in managing diverse personalities and abilities within his ranks, ensuring that each shadow's unique capabilities were utilized to their fullest potential while maintaining the unity of purpose that made his army so formidable. Min Byung-gyu. Min Byung-gyu's extraction represented one of the most emotionally complex and morally significant moments in Jinwoo's journey as the Shadow Monarch, demonstrating that his power over death could serve purposes beyond warfare and conquest. Min Byung-gyu had been a respected S-rank healer, known throughout the hunter community for his integrity, skill, and unwavering dedication to preserving life rather than taking it. His death had been a tragedy that affected not just his immediate circle but the entire hunter organization, as healers of his caliber were rare and invaluable assets in humanity's ongoing struggle against dungeon threats. When circumstances arose that required healing abilities beyond what conventional medicine could provide, Jinwoo made the difficult decision to temporarily extract Min Byung-gyu's shadow not for combat purposes, but to access his legendary healing capabilities. Arise. The extraction was performed with reverence and necessity rather than conquest, bringing back a shadow whose purpose was to heal rather than harm. Min Byung-gyu's shadow retained not just his healing abilities but his fundamental nature as a protector of life, working alongside Jinwoo to save someone who desperately needed medical intervention that only his unique skills could provide. What made this extraction truly remarkable was Jinwoo's decision to release Min Byung-gyu's shadow after the healing was complete, demonstrating a level of respect and moral consideration that set him apart from typical necromancers or dark magic users. This temporary extraction proved that Jinwoo's power could be used for preservation and healing as well as destruction, and that his growing abilities came with a corresponding growth in wisdom about when and how to use them responsibly. If you stayed to this point, you have passed the point that many hunters could not reach, and now for one of Jinwoo's strongest characters so far. Bellion. Bellion's arrival in Jinwoo's service represented a paradigm shift in the nature and scope of his shadow army. Though technically Bellion was not extracted through Jinwoo's own power, but rather sent by Ashbourne himself as a recognition of Jinwoo's legitimacy as the true Shadow Monarch. This distinction made Bellion unique among Jinwoo's shadows. Not a conquered enemy transformed into an ally, but a willing servant who chose to serve based on divine mandate and personal recognition of Jinwoo's worthiness. Bellion's appearance was that of an angelic warrior, beautiful and terrible in equal measure, with power that transcended the normal categories of shadow soldiers and approached the realm of divine beings. His combat capabilities were legendary, even among Ashbourne's original forces, representing millennia of experience in conflicts that spanned multiple dimensions and realities. When Bellion pledged his allegiance to Jinwoo, it wasn't just gaining another powerful ally. It was receiving confirmation from the highest levels of shadow hierarchy that Jinwoo had truly inherited the mantle of Shadow Monarch. Bellion's presence elevated the entire Shadow Army, not just through his individual combat prowess, but through his role as a bridge between Jinwoo's extracted shadows and the ancient powers that had originally created the Shadow Dominion. His tactical knowledge, strategic thinking, and understanding of cosmic-level conflicts provided Jinwoo with insights and capabilities that would prove crucial in facing threats that went beyond individual monsters or even national-level crises. Belian represented the ultimate evolution of Jinwoo's journey from weak hunter to cosmic power, serving as both protector and advisor in a role that combined the loyalty of an extracted shadow with the wisdom of an ancient general who had served at the right hand of the original Shadow Monarch. Kamish. Kamish was the Destruction Dragon, the first S-rank gate boss whose rampage in America became legend, until Jinwoo proved that even legends could be surpassed. Jinwoo didn't defeat Kamish in traditional combat. He claimed the dragon's remains and whispered the word that had become his signature: Arise. National-level power. Kamish's extraction announced to the world that Jinwoo had transcended human limitations entirely. Kamish's extraction was different. It was performed on ancient remains, proving Jinwoo's power could reach across time itself. From a single night in a forgotten castle to an army of legends, Jinwoo's journey through shadow extraction tells a deeper story than mere power accumulation. Each shadow represents a choice. Igris chose honor over expedience. Tank chose loyalty over wildness. Iron chose redemption over condemnation. Tusk chose wisdom over destruction. Kaizel chose service over pride. And Beru chose protection over predation. Jinwoo didn't just collect powerful monsters. He transformed enemies into allies, predators into protectors, and chaos into order. The Shadow Army stands as proof that even death isn't the end. It's a transformation. Under the right leadership, even the darkest past can serve a bright